So there we are. How are you doing, Tyler?
Good. Actually, I just finished doing some Wim Hof breathing, which I thought you might know a thing or two about.
Yes, I do. I do. I
I figured,
he's a Dutch guy, right? So
yeah, yeah,
I know that when he came out, it's like 15 or 20 years ago, I think he was on a program, television program, and everything. Well, everybody said just like, "What's this kind of lunatic?" He had a
yeah,
crazy
right,
story.
yeah,
Um, I think he lost his wife in yeah, quite some tragical stuff. And then one day he walked in the Netherlands down a pond which was frozen, and he just wanted to end his life basically.
Oh, I've never heard this part of it.
No, no, probably you don't.
Yeah, yeah, no, I didn't.
And when he jumped into the water, he noticed this kind of silence that he needed.
Yeah,
So he was struggling with some real bad stuff, and he noticed that, wait a minute, I can stay alive somehow, and he found his inner peace in this cold water. So I think that was basically when the story of Wim Hof started, and he developed that more and more with breathing and with exercises. And I
right,
know that he had one day he was asked by the university or a hospital here in the Netherlands, in Nijmegen, to do a test, or I think it was Rotterdam, in Erasmus. And he said basically, okay, give me 10 people, I will introduce them to my method, and probably we can, if there's a virus in our body, we can only with breathing and with mental health, we can put that disease out. So what they did is they put it up to 20 people, 10 that were guided by Wim Hof with the
yeah,
breathing exercises and stuff like that, and they put some virus in them, and with one, I think within one day, everybody walked out, and the other 10 that were basically sick and stayed sick. They had to be they needed treatment. Yeah, unbelievable. So
yeah,
please introduce yourself to the audience. Let me just introduce you to
sure.
my audience, and then you will have the time to introduce yourself, Tyler. Well, listeners, welcome to another episode of Disorganized Productions. Today we have a special guest, the fittest flat earther alive. This is Mr. Tyler Hansen.
Thank you for that kind introduction. And I tell people that I created that name kind of as a joke. Before becoming a truther, I was, pretty focused on coaching physical fitness. I was a big advocate of physical fitness myself, and I still am by far. But when I first kind of fell into the truther world, my training kind of got pushed to the side, because especially with things like flat Earth, I was just like, all I cared about was finding truth and really figuring out what this place I live in was. So the training got pushed to the side. So I created that name as a little bit of an accountability. So, if I have that name, I can't go around claiming to be the fittest flat earther and be a fat slob. So it keeps me on top of my training game. And, I, kind of part of it was too hoping that some really, really, really fit person would be like, hey, I'm the fittest flat earther, or the CrossFit world would kind of find out some flat earth truth and knock me off of it. So it was kind of a joke, but also kind of an accountability name for myself.
Wow. And you are really fit. I saw your videos on Instagram, and you do well. Explain to the people what you all do, because you do weightlifting, handstands. I saw you on a swimming pool doing a handstand and stuff like that. But
Yeah. So
yeah,
um, I do CrossFit. I compete in CrossFit. It's a sport that combines really trying to have a well-rounded fitness in all realms. So you need to be, and the way it's best described is you need to be a combination of a gymnast, an aerobic exerciser like a triathlon, but also a weightlifter. So you got to kind of find that intersection of all three of those, because if you get too good at one, if you're too good at weightlifting, then your cardio is going to suffer. If you get too good at gymnastics or cardio, then your weightlifting is going to suffer. So you got to find that like middle ground of being good at all of them,
Hmm.
because in the CrossFit, there's something called the CrossFit Games. And when you compete in that, the test is to find the fittest in the world, and they have different age levels, but they test you. They can throw any type of competition at you, anything that involves any sort of physical fitness, and you don't know what it is ahead of time. So you need to be ready for anything. So it's really fun to train for, because it's almost like being a truther. You're never bored, because there's always something you could be working on.
Okay, cool. And
Yeah.
it involves, I think I saw something with the competition. It's just like 150 push-ups, 200 sit-ups, running like 5 kilometers with some weight on your chest.
Yep.
It's immense.
Yeah, that workout is specifically, I think the one you're talking about is called Murph, and it was named after um, a guy named, I think it's Michael Murphy. He was a Marine that was killed. So a lot of times they name the workouts after people in the military that have lost their lives, or police officers that have lost their lives. And that one's intense. It's with a weighted vest of 20 pounds. You have to run a mile, and it's for time. So you're trying to do it as fast as you can. Run a mile, 100 pull-ups, 200 push-ups, and then 300 air squats, and then finish it with another mile. So it's one I do every Memorial Day, because they call it Memorial Day Murph.
Wow. So you're
Yeah.
also known by the gentleman David Goggins, I think it is.
Yep. Yep.
He's a badass, man.
Yeah, big time.
And especially when you look to his story, he was quite a fat guy, and he wanted to
Yeah. Yeah.
join the I think the army, and they just debunked him just all the time, just like you're not going to do that. This is something that's not for you, and he proved everyone wrong.
Yeah,
And
he's a major badass. I think he lost 100 pounds in like a year or two, and then now just like I think there was a point where he was running a marathon every day.
it's beast
Yeah.
mode.
Yeah, for sure.
Wow, wow. And Tyler, how long are you in this? Let's say in a critical thinking critical thinking community that you opened your eyes and thought, wait a minute, something that they try to tell us is absolutely wrong. I got to figure some things out for myself.
I would say there were kind of two phases of it. I think probably, I can never put my exact finger on it, but maybe 10 or 15 years ago, I really dove down the rabbit hole with 9/11, as a lot of people do, I think. And, that gave me a major distrust for the government. And at the same time, kind of, as I mentioned, I was into health and nutrition. So I really was seeing the kind of misinformation and bad information about the health and fitness world with, um, like vaccines and just different tips they would give you for nutrition. So that stuff was like my first awakening, but that didn't really lead to a larger awakening until this past year, really. It was probably in May or June where I started going down. To be honest, I was going down two rabbit holes, and one was I was trying to prove aliens existed, and then the other was I was looking into near death experiences, and it kind of just led me to figure out this world wasn't at all what I thought it was. And, to myself, I proved that aliens weren't real and that near death experiences were. And I going in, I thought it might be the opposite. So
Hmm.
um, I've had a very different, or I have a very different view of the world now than I did a year ago. So it's been a wild ride. It's been a lot of fun, but a lot of heartache too. I've lost a lot of friends, as people do. I've had a lot of hard times with my family and even my wife, but those are going in better directions now. Especially with my wife, we're good now.
Good.
So yeah, it's been a wild ride for a year for sure.
Yeah, because what I always say is you feel like kind of all of a suddenly you're see some things, or you notice some things that aren't real, and you dig into that stuff because you got some critical thinking, and then all of a sudden there is this isolation because you can't talk about normal things anymore because you got something like, oh man, I got something to say, this really
Yeah,
blows your mind, and
yeah,
then you tell that, and then probably they say, oh my god, you're ready for the loony bin, right? You're ready to get institutionalized because what the hell are you telling now? And
yeah,
you're going to be very um, careful about to whom you saying what, because you know that there's this thing going on. What was that for you, on your perspective, when you waked up and you saw the world in a different kind of view?
how was it, did you say?
Yeah, how was it for your perspective when you woke up? And as you said, it was you lost some friends because of this things that you're involved with and that you saw opened your eyes. And how is it to deal with that when you have this open view in this world right now?
Yeah, well, you said you got to be careful of who you talk to about it and who you tell, and I wasn't. I told, I was like, everybody listen, and it didn't go well. I explained it as I fire hosed everybody. I was just blasting them with it, and people don't want to be told that they don't know, the way they see things, or that the way they see things is wrong. And I had experienced, I had a really good close friend group from like third grade through middle school, through high school, through college, and even after. Like, I had a tight knit group of like 10 guy friends, and there was never a time where throughout all the years I thought I would tell them something and they just wouldn't believe me. And you try to tell these people things, and one, they don't believe you; two, they think you're crazy, and then if you don't stop talking about it, they distance themselves from you. So
Mm.
I had a lot of that. I had, my family didn't distance themselves from me, but um, for example, I'm like a year into this, and my mom called me yesterday because I had a a very kind woman contact me. She is a professor in Canada, and she loves my videos. And she contacted me. She's like, "Hey, I've got this group." She's got this organization where um, she gets people to donate breast milk, so that people, like, if there are two gay fathers that don't have the ability, they can have donated breast milk so their child can have breast milk, because the nutrients in that are so important. Anyway, she contacted me and was like, "I love your videos. I've got a big face group following. Can you put your videos on Facebook?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course." Like, it's an easy step and click. So I
Mhm.
spent 5 minutes yesterday putting like 15 of my videos on Facebook. And my mom sees this and calls me and is like worried, thinking I've gone off the deep end and I'm just spending the whole day posting these. And she's telling me how she's worried I'm going to be arrested. I'm like, arrested for what? Just speaking the truth. So, like, my family is so far removed from understanding anything that I'm talking about is anything but crazy,
Mhm.
that it makes it really tough. I'm still fighting that battle with them, unfortunately. And as you know, like, when you care about people and you want them to understand that they're being deceived and lied to, like, I just want to tell them. And for me to not want to tell them, it's almost like I have to either decide to keep pushing, which is going to push them away, or like care a little less. Like, to me, it's like hard to decide what to do. There's not a good middle ground. And that's for me. I don't know if other people experience that, but it's like I need to care less or I need to keep trying. And
Mm.
fortunately, neither of those work.
Yeah, we call it it's a little bit of slippery ice, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's something that you can balance off, but you can also, just on some part of the ice, the ice breaks, and you will probably have a really hard time. And well, as you pointed out, just like Facebook and stuff like that, the thing is that I see for the last couple of 3-4 years is that it's exploding on TikTok and Instagram. More people are coming out and saying, okay, maybe this is not the whole truth, but definitely we are deceived about what we're living in, where we're living in, and what's going on. And especially now, it's now the 13th of January. We saw some aliens already. I don't know if it's true, but the news is bringing it. So and there's something.
Yeah.
Uh, you can stage 100 police cars, well, just like that, if you want to put people with something up. We saw, of course, the Epstein files that have been coming out. So there's a lot of going on, and especially as you mentioned, if you go to some groups, uh, there are more and more people that connect together to say, okay, wait a minute, we know there's something going on. We have to dig into some stuff, and of course, there's some people that just relate to you on the same topics, with the same mindset. And I've been written down some of the topics that you mentioned on your videos, and man, we're going to have a great conversation already, because there are so many things we can dig into. And well, I saw this video from you about the snow. So it was snowing like hell, just like a few centimeters of snow, and then you tried to burn it,
Yeah.
and it didn't burn.
Right.
It's something like, oh my god! I mean, that you have a blowtorch, not like just like a lightner or something like that, just like a blowtorch. And the greatest connection that you made there, the connecting the dots, is like HAARP. Did this? I don't know what's it's a chemical. It's not natural. Let's say
Right.
that.
Right.
What do you think about that? Because yeah, that's one of the topics I want to deep dive in with you, because we know that the weather is going crazy right now. It was snowing where you live. Um, is it normal that it snows where you live?
Yeah. This is a pretty, like, we've got almost 2 feet out there right now, and that happens like once every 10 years around here. But I'm pretty close to Chicago, so Chicago gets snow. It's totally normal, but it's what I found to be, in that post you're talking about, I posted how there's snow, a lot of snow coming, potentially, like, I don't know if people are really going to be snowed in from a foot or two, but it's going to make people in their homes. And then we've got some really cold weather, frigid weather coming. Um, so the snow, then the freezing cold weather. And if in that post, there's been a lot of talk, in the truther community about the potential purposeful blackout or internet blackout or electrical blackout. So, I didn't want to, I wanted to talk about it on a level of just people being aware, people having consciousness of it. But I don't want to scare people into going out and getting all
Mm.
this firewood and supplies. But it's just something to be aware of, because it's been talked about a lot. And it looked like, to me, it was lining up where if they were going to black some people out and want some people, potentially freezing to death,
Mm-hmm.
um, you know, it lines up pretty well. And I do think my wife and I were talking about this yesterday, because she's not a truther, but she's good at listening to a lot of the stuff I say. And she couldn't wrap her head around how I thought the weather was controlled. And she's like, well, I believe God creates the weather. And I was like, oh, like, I think we're living in a system here. It's
Mm-hmm.
like living in a greenhouse. There's natural weather that occurs. I believe that. Like, there's for sure natural weather, but I do believe that our governments can manipulate, control, can, in that video I posted, they, even in the news, they're talking about how they can strike clouds with lasers to
Mm-hmm.
make them, make it precipitate. So, yeah, I was just talking about it, and I saw a buddy of mine on TikTok showed me the snow that just wouldn't melt, and his was even lighting on fire. Like, his
Oh yeah,
was
yeah, I
turning
saw that too. Yeah.
black and lighting on fire. And mine didn't do that, but it just wasn't dripping. And I was like, is this normal? And I should have put this in the video too, but I did an experiment where I tried to create a snowball and put it in the freezer that wasn't the outdoor snow. And I took the same blowtorch, and it was just melting, drips, drips, drips.
Water.
But
I
this
mean,
out, yeah, exactly. That outdoor snow was just not one drip. And my wife's like, well, it's just evaporating. I was like, I was like, there's evaporation and then there's burning off. And that's what was happening, because it shouldn't be, the evaporation from the outdoor snow shouldn't be different from the indoor snow.
Hmm.
And there was evaporation and melting happening.
Crazy. And I know that they I think one of the first well, probably not one of the first, but I know that for Olympics or a football game somewhere, if it was China or Abu Dhabi or something like that, they control the weather. Just like, okay, when we have this game going on, there shouldn't be bad weather or something like that. So they manipulate it already. So they
Yeah.
have this and if you dig into that, like HAARP, it's of HAARP, it's well, it's frightening. And I live in the Netherlands, so it's lowlands, and it's normal to have rain and to have severe cold, but not like Alaska or Canada or something like that. But we know how to deal with cold, and there's winters. But
Yeah.
it was raining like 3 weeks almost constantly, so a lot of fields and stuff like that were just flooded. And then all of a sudden, within 2 or 3 days, there was a -2, -3. We had one time -8 degrees. We could ice skate, something like that.
Yeah.
And it's not normal. You can see when a child is what's it called? When a child is not happy, you see that when he comes down from school, you see when your partner isn't happy, and somehow you can also see on nature, hey, wait a minute, something is going on. Just like if you listen to the birds right now, they don't make any sound because it's winter. You know, they come out in the spring, they tweet, and they have their pairing eggs, so they can have eggs in May and stuff like that. It's a nature of life, or the cycle of life, better said. And you can
Right.
see in different countries that something is going on. Just like I think it was last year that it was snowing in a desert. I mean, that's not normal, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, all you have to do is look at the, all the chemtrails, and, you know, they're trying to normalize it so much. I saw something the other day where they've even gone back and put chemtrails in old Disney movies. So if you're watching, like, Aladdin or The Little Mermaid, they have chemtrails in those movies now to make it normalized. It's
What?
crazy. Yes, exactly. It's crazy.
Oh my God. And that's also one thing, the Mandela effect that they talk about
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah.
They there's something that I call they harvest some consciousness. They spread some things out that you can't believe what you see on TV or in a movie or stuff like that. Just like people talking about it. Of course, have you seen this movie? And
Yeah.
about this scene that's really crazy and stuff like that. But because we're talking about, I think that there's some collective consciousness that's been spread out in the ether, and somehow I think that these entities or whatever it is harvest of them and has something. Okay, they're talking about, so now we can put the shit up because it's already been known.
Yeah, for sure. I'm actually reading a really good book right now. It's called, I won't be able to remember the author, but it's called Power versus Force. And it's literally talking about how we all share a collective consciousness. And not only does that exist, but you can tap into it for answers. And it's the guy, it's not like woo-woo stuff. This guy has
Mm-hmm.
spent years, like dozens of years testing it, where I don't know if you've ever seen, but like there's a test where, they'll tell you to hold something or think of something and then try to push your arm down. And it's like, at sometimes that arm won't move and others it will. And it's something, and I'm only halfway through, but it's literally it, um, it's called like mental kinesiology, or it ties in like physical and the mental, and they've tested it over and over again that you can literally tap into that collective consciousness
Mm-hmm.
and get answers to yes or no questions. And
Wow.
so it's I haven't gotten far enough where I'm able to tap into that yet, but it's really interesting and backed by experiments and science and data. So it's not just people having these theories. It's really cool. It's
Mm-hmm.
power versus force.
Well, it makes a little bit of sense uh, when you see the four elements. They used to be five. You got air, fire, earth, and water. But there's a fifth element, and that's ether.
Right.
And when I refer to what my perspective of God is God is that created everything, has always been there and always will be. And I think it's in Genesis that it says, and the Spirit of God was down at the waters below. So the Spirit of God, everything that connects to everything is ether,
Yeah.
right? So for me, that makes completely sense if you can connect to that, just like the Ethernet. They got it already. I mean, that's
Yeah.
data from all around the world where you can connect in. Then you probably can download the information that you need, because it's the consciousness that there is.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
It is. This guy, I did a post on, this was several months ago. I did a post on the big craters that are found all over the world, and they say they're asteroids that hit or comets that hit. But I did a post tying it into how it could be have to do with the fallen angels that came down. And this guy reached out to me and he said he had read this book and he tapped into it, and he's like, I asked the universe or the collective consciousness if you were right about this. And he's like, I tested it over and over again. And he's like, you're right. I was like, at first I was, skeptical. This guy reaches out to me out of nowhere, but we started talking and having conversations and became buddies. And it was like, he's like, you got to read this book. And just reading it, the more you read it, the more you realize it's a real phenomenon, and it's not just, make believe. It's really cool.
Mm. And it's really funny to see. Well, not funny. It's I'm a little bit scared about what the future will bring in. What you mentioned, like blackouts, that could be also a internet blackout, because we've been digging into some data, like, well, 20 years now. We can find everything. Before the internet, you have to go to somebody who has an authority on some level, a doctor, a mayor, or a policeman, and stuff like that, to get some real knowledge. And they would say, oh no, you're not good enough, you have to do this and this and this grade before you get some other knowledge. And nowadays we can, well, if I got a question about whatever, I go to, well, let's say Google, especially a few years ago, so you
Yeah.
can find the answer. But I think with that said, they had a big problem with people that have been waking up and digged into some stuff and used really their minds, not only like the 2 or the 5% that they say, but use like 10%. Okay, what is this about, and you can find some topics about it, you can find interesting articles and stuff like that. So basically you don't need a PhD to dig into some really interesting stuff that normally you would need on a PhD or a university.
Yeah. And, it's funny you mentioned that, because when I came into the truth, one of the things I really figured out is how controlled Google and the internet was. So, I used to think if I wanted to research something, I would just type it out and like, here's some answers. And these people, kind of like you were saying, like, I trust that if it's a trusted site that people have done the research and there wasn't a narrative they were trying to push. And when I realized that even the internet was just totally controlled and full of lies, I was like, well, like, how am I going to find answers? And, I navigated it and figured out, through tests and research and asking people who I trust and, just like figuring it out, that you can still figure out truth. But at first I was like, everything's a lie. I can't even like use the internet because it's lying to me, especially with like things like flat earth and the jabs.
Mm,
There's a specific narrative that they put at the top of all the search engines, and it's not the truth.
it's unbelievable. And
Yeah.
we're I think that normal people are well, you explain normal, of course, but
Yeah.
the people are capable enough to think what's good and what's bad and what's their own truth. As I would say, what relates to you to the most plausible truth. If that's your, well, belief is another thing, but if that's what you think, that's okay. You can have a dialogue, you can have a conversation about that, and you do not have to agree with someone. But if you take some specific information out, I got a problem with that, because then I know it's just like that. Your parents said in the early days, you don't do that. Oh, that's interesting. Why not? Or
Yeah.
don't open that door. You can go to any door, but not that door. Okay, what's behind that door?
Yeah, exactly.
And it's funny though, because um, if you have children, first of all, you want to let them walk, right? So, and when they walk, they have to sit still. Then you learn them to talk, and when they eventually talk, they have to shut up.
Yep.
And the first thing that you say when they're a little bit more conscious and they talk and they walk is, don't lie to anyone, and especially not to your parents. And the first 5 to 6, 7 years, we have all these things that going on, like Easter and Christmas, Santa Claus and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it's putting up the lie, but the children shouldn't lie. That's crazy, man.
Yeah. And man, the way you just connected all of those two, that I've thought about it, all of those individually, but just like hearing the way you put that, that's amazing. And it's so true. It's like, you know, do as I say, not as I do, for sure.
Hmm. Hmm. But the same thing. Okay, you got now the ability to have a mobile phone. You can connect through the whole world. You have all the information that you want to dig into. But now is the time to no, don't do that. What the
Yeah.
hell? It doesn't make any sense. But I think that they are quite stupid and play the cards, especially with with that one.
Yeah.
And of course, like 9/11, that was something that well, 9/11 was one of the things that I thought on saw on TV, where I just was saying, just like, that can't be true, because a construction like that all over the world has been built that it can't collapse with anything. If there's fire, heat, explosions, or whatever going on, it can't collapse. That was the first thing that I thought, this is a big scam. But then when they were searching for someone, Osama bin Laden in this case, it took so much time. But when we spread some really difficult stuff that they don't want to, they can track us down within like 1 hour. Where's the signal? Where's the ping? Where's this? This is the area, and now we have to pin down. We're gonna, they can pin you down within 1 hour. But
Yep.
then when I really just had something like, oh my God, I can't believe this. They found this guy and they gave him a C. What's it called? They buried him on the sea,
Yeah.
a sea funeral.
Yeah. Yeah. A
I
Viking
mean,
funeral.
if you go to Afghanistan, how far is that from the sea? What's the relation between Osama bin Laden and the sea? Is he a pirate or something like that? Who could imagine? Okay, you can give him a funeral on sea, but it
Yeah.
doesn't make any sense to me.
No, not at all. And then like when you see the pictures of his corpse, supposedly his corpse, and you can match that up to like exact photos in the past, just manipulated. It's there was so much to same with me. There was so much that didn't make sense, that all you had to do was look. And I've told family members this who can't even wrap their heads around the fact that the narrative that we were told on the news isn't the truth about 9/11. And it's like, you haven't looked. If you just look,
Hmm.
it's not something that's hard to see. If you just look, you'll see, you know, there's another tower that went down that they didn't tell you about the news. There's the fact that Donald Rumsfeld talked about $3 trillion being missing the day before 9/11, and that the hole in the Pentagon is like this, and there's no wing. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah, they were searching
it's
for
just so much.
airplane parts, and they looked down the ground. Well, if a Cessna flews into a building, there are two wheels that are bigger. Well, they're quite big. It's not like a car wheel. You're not going to search for scrap on the ground when a plane hits a building. That makes no sense at all.
Yeah.
But that's a funny thing. Talking about the news and about the narrative they try to give you, you already had something like, oh man, you got that point that everything that they tell you, you're going to question about with your own um conscious mind, just like, is what, something like, I question this. Do you still look at the news, or do you have a television?
I really don't. I shouldn't say that. I will look at online at like the Yahoo headlines, and not honestly, the only reason I look for them is to see what BS they're putting out there today. And usually, what I'm doing is looking to see how many little dog images they've put in their lies of the news. And I'm sure you've seen some of my things with how they hide dogs and everything
Yeah.
to me. It's kind of their poker tell. If anyone's ever seen the movie Rounders with Teddy KGB, and I don't know if you'll be familiar with this, but he's a guy, a poker player, and if he is lying and bluffing in his hand, he eats an Oreo a certain way. And
Uh-huh.
to me, that's what the dogs are. It's their poker tell is, hey, we're lying about this, and we're going to hide little dog images scattered out through everything. And it's not just the news and the media; it's NASA, and I find them everywhere. And then a lot of people at first, when I was first talking about this, was like, you're just seeing dogs. Like my brother is like, a dog could easily be like two dots and a third dot, and I'm like,
Hmm.
okay, so go find these dogs in something is a real video, and like you can't find them. And then I go to a NASA video and I look in their smoke or look in their rocket, and they're just they hide little tiny dog faces everywhere. And um, I think I don't think I'm special. I think we're all special, but I don't think I'm any more special than someone. But I think that God wanted me to figure that out. And, it happened. I figured it out at a time when I was seeking truth. And a big part of the reason I was seeking truth, it might sound silly, but I'm a dog dad. I had 4 dogs a year ago. I don't have children. And one of my dogs was kind of on his last leg, and I was just feeling really sad. And, I think that is part of what sent me down the near death experience rabbit hole.
Hmm.
Just wanted to know my baby was like potentially had a spirit and was going to live on. But, at that time, I'm obviously thinking about dogs a lot. And I think I was divinely inspired to see dogs in the stars. I saw them in the stars before anything else. And, people would be like, well, of course you're seeing dogs and things, and your dog is dying. And I'm like, well, I actually think it's quite the opposite. I think my dog dying allowed me to see the dogs that are there,
Mm.
not seeing the dogs that aren't there, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. I listened to your episode on George Hobbs. Shout out
Yeah,
for George Hobbs for the Flat Earth
yeah.
Files. It brought me much
George is the
closer to
man.
the truth and a lot of great conversation with the great people just like you, Tyler. And you mentioned that, and first of all, I just thought, oh my god, you know, what kind of stuff is he smoking? I want some of that, first of all.
Man,
And
I get that comment a lot online for sure.
yeah, and then you dig down into it and you explained it. Then you were on the firmamental with my guys Raul and Alex.
Love
Shout
those.
out for these guys too.
Yeah,
And I was looking at some videos from you at Instagram, and then you pointed out these dogs, and then it all clicked with me, just like, oh my god, I see dogs, and it is really fascinating. Just like you said on the podcast, dogs and God. I mean, there's some connection, right? You
yeah,
also have the dog star. I think
yep.
isn't that Polaris?
Sirius. Sirius is the
Sirius,
dog star. Yep,
Sirius, yeah.
yep.
So
And
there is a connection and divine connection with dogs and stuff like that. And
yeah,
of course, when I say to you, Red Bull, you got something in your consciousness is like Red Bull, and when you take a walk, you probably see one or two, maybe three Red Bulls that you didn't saw before. But the thing is, I wasn't thinking about dogs. And anyway, I was looking at your videos and just like, holy cow. And it's not just like, oh, this looks like a dog. You can specifically tell what kind of dog it is.
yeah. Some of them for sure. Some are more obvious than others.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's one of the ones that I think is the clearest looks just like a fox. And I don't know what that dog would be, what breed of dog that would be that has that same coloring as a fox. But I mean, it's clear as day to me. It's not, you don't have to cross your eyes weird. You don't have to look at it strange. It is like Yeah, that looks exactly like a fox. And why is that in a star that is supposedly, 25 trillion miles away? It, it doesn't make sense, you know?
That's another thing, right?
Yeah, right. I'm like, like there was definitely a point of time where I'm like, am I losing it? Am I seeing things that aren't there? Like I had to question myself, because people are like, well, you're seeing dogs because your dog's dying. I was like, is that actually happening? But then I just kept verifying it over and over and over again. And I'm like, no, like this is for real. And I think I'm the only person in the world that has ever figured this out. And I only can say I figured it out because God turned my head a certain way at a certain time to look at a star at a certain time, and it just happened to be Sirius, the dog star. I mean, it aligned so crazily to me that I can only say God wanted me to know this, maybe to get it out to the world.
Mm. And it's really cool that when you see that, of course, George Hobbs had the fact hunter before he had the flat Earth files, but he has
Right,
the flat Earth files like now, like a year or something like that. It's not that long.
right,
And Raul started podcasting for like 6 months ago. I started podcasting like 2 months ago. Derek Stitt is going to be on there. You are telling your perspective of your truth and your journey on Instagram and Facebook nowadays, and you are a guest on podcasts. So I think, especially just like what you said, God turns your head in some way, and when you do the things that are interesting, you can talk about it, you can investigate about it, for hours. It's not like a 9 to 5 job that you think, okay, tomorrow I'm going to do this, stuff like that, because it's boring. And
yeah,
somehow it brings us closer to the people where you can really have a conversation with, because you have the same mindset about based things, but it also connects really deep directly.
yeah,
And it's something maybe you can relate to that. I have some friends that I really love my friends, but somehow I met people in the last half year that connected to me closer, because I know that there are some topics that I do not have to disagree with or agree with, because they already have been there.
yeah.
And it's really strange, because I know people for 20, 30 years and I really love them to death. But somehow I feel so disconnected from what their lives about and what my life's about.
1000% times 1,000. I my wife and I were talking about that yesterday, just about how these people in my life, these lifelong friends I have, you know, it's uh it's hard because they just want me to talk about what they care about, which is to me just not as important of stuff anymore. It's like I was a big football fan and like fantasy football and just really into sports, and I still will watch like the home team, the Chicago Bears, and I'll still watch football, but like my day isn't made or break if they lose, and like I don't need to spend an hour talking about it. I want to talk about the really important things that
Mm.
in my opinion are really important, like the fact that we're being poisoned from every direction, and the fact that everyone's lying to us about the place we live in, and the fact that they're lying about God, and like that stuff is just so much more important and interesting to me that it's hard to get back to that, like you know not unimportant, but like um everyday life topics.
Mm. It's like if you do karate and you have some friends that you do karate with, and you spend your holidays in doing karate, and you're on the black belt, and your friends are still on the yellow belt, and they want to let's
Yeah,
have a brawl. Wow.
yeah,
I don't think that makes any sense. You know what I mean? Because you've
yeah.
just leveled up in some way, and it's not. It's the hardest part. I think is that they talk about play and bread, right? Give them play and bread, and they will shut up.
Hmm.
I was never a person that shut up. I think I'm an Einzelgänger, especially because of my zodiac sign. I'm Aquarius. That made me quite feeling. If I'm alone, I love that. I can handle silence and stuff like that. But I always was a deep thinker. So I always felt that I wasn't fitting in the group or in the class because I was thinking about so many different things, you know. And I liked history, but when I was in class and they told me, yeah, what happened in 1482? Just like, first of all, who gives a shit? Second of all, what does it has to do with now, you know, with where we are, the time in where we are now, and who's been written this history? So only the winners write the history. So, you know, it didn't make any sense to me. But I loved to look on Discovery Channel and stuff like that, you know, like ancient history and stuff like that. I really loved that.
Yeah.
And what they did is like 10, 50 years ago, when they brought that on television, I had something like, okay, I'm ready for this. Bring it on. And I was connecting the dots for myself, listening to Joe Rogan with Graham Hancock and that kind of stuff. You know, oh wow, oh there's a connection there, there's a connection there. Interesting.
Yeah.
And then I digged into some esoteric stuff, topics and stuff like that, and then all of a sudden there it was flat Earth, and I'm just like, hmm, I don't know about that, man. It could be. Let's dig into one video. And the funny thing is, it was like almost 10 years ago. I had that in the back of my head, just like, okay, that could be something, but I didn't give any more attention to it and stuff like that until more things came up, just like you said, like the vaccine and stuff like that, and opened up more my eyes.
Yeah.
And somehow on TikTok or on Instagram, there came some posts like, oh, yeah, give me more about that. And then I digged into, it was on Spotify, just like Flat Earth. I want to know more about it, just like I did with Santos Bonacci. Shout out to that one. I love this guy. We love to have him on a podcast because of knowledge and his wisdom that he has about all the stuff he talks about.
Yeah.
Um,
Such a smart guy.
oh wow! And he's connecting the dots in a way that it feels um, so right. Okay, we got this and we got that, but when you combine it together, he translated in a language so you can understand. Because of
Yeah.
course it's a lot that you can wrap your head around, right? But
Yep.
he it makes completely sense when he tells you that. So, um, Tyler, I want to talk to you about rock and roll music. I think you're that was also one of your posts.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I wasn't that kind of fan of Motley Crue, but of course I know Motley Crue,
Yeah.
and I saw something like it's also 10, 15 years ago. It was a documentary about rock and roll music, like hard rock and stuff like that. And then I opened my eyes, just like, oh my God, I'm looking to half naked guys with long hair and lipstick. That was one of the things that I just like, oh, wait a minute. So, you know, and then you came up with this video about Mötley Crüe. And I want you to talk about that, about your experience in music and how it opened your eyes and how you listen to that music now. Because you was making a video about Mötley Crüe and about the text that they sing related to the devil.
Yep.
And of course, I love Iron Maiden, Black Sabbath, Led Zeppelin, all that stuff. And yes, it opened my eyes also. But I want to know your point of view about how you look to that music and how right was your mom.
Yeah. So, I mean, as a kid, I wanted to, I was in 80s into 90s. I was born in 1980. So I didn't really get into music until the 90s. And I just, I had older friends and they were listening to all the rock and roll, the Metallica, AC/DC, Motley Crue, even like the 70s stuff like Led Zeppelin. And, my mom would let me have certain things and others she wouldn't. And something like Motley Crue and like, I think either the album title or whatever was Shout at the Devil. And she wouldn't let me have these. And I'm like, well, I don't understand why, Mom. And she's like, they're devil or Satan worshippers or devil worshippers. I was like, no, no, no. Like, that's just like their MO. They think it's cool. It's just like to look like badasses and things like that. I'm like, they don't actually. And she's like, I'm not going to let you have it. Sorry. So, like maybe I had a Motley Crue album, but it wasn't one that was specifically titled Shout at the Devil. And, fast forward 30 years and I go through this awakening process and I'm, I listen to music, especially rock now. I never used to be a person that really paid attention to lyrics. It was
Mhm.
just music was on in the background if I was working out or driving in the car, but I was never a lyrics guy. And now I am like, that's all I do. I'm just listening to lyrics. So I'm listening to Motley Crue in the weight room at my school, and I just all of a sudden hear things about fallen angels and worshiping the God that's not in heaven. And I'm like, whoa, 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 let's check this out. And I'm already in the belief and the knowledge that the music industry is satanic and the entertainment industry is satanic. But I go and I look at the words and, like I said, talking about fallen angels and things, and I'm like, wow, my mom was really right about this stuff. Like they really do. They sell their soul, they worship Satan, they get their power, or they're inspired from that evil. And I try to tell my mom this stuff now, and she's like, no, they're just, she's like saying what I said 30 years ago. Like, no, that's just to be like, cool and look cool for the kids or like badass. I'm like, no, Mom, you had it right 30 years ago. And I'm trying to tell you that. And she just doesn't see it that way. She chooses to think there's a lot more good in the world than evil. And, God bless her for that. But I don't think she's like I used to be, I used to think this world was a very physical world, and I didn't realize the spirituality to it until I had some crazy things happen and awoke to the flat Earth and things like that. So yeah, Metallica is one of my favorite bands, and I try purposely to not hear the lyrics for them because once I hear those words, those love of Satan and things like that, it turns me off. So I don't want to listen anymore. So I don't
Mm.
want to be turned off to Metallica just yet.
Oh, that's great. I love the album Kill 'Em All.
Yep.
Talking about that. But I
Yeah.
mean,
Don't
if you
ruin it
have
for me.
Uter breath and stuff like that, it's I think they were yeah. I know exactly what you mean because now it's dancing in my brain just like, oh no, please don't, I mean,
Yeah.
I love this. I mean, this is my neighbor. No, this is my childhood, and especially that kind of music, just like Guns N' Roses, Metallica, AC/DC, Black Sabbath. They were the guys, Motorhead, that pushed me through my childhood, which wasn't the nicest one. But
Yeah.
and when Lemmy died, I can tell you right now, Tyler, and all to our listeners, I cried more when Lemmy died than when my own dad died. It had to do also with the relationship I had with my dad. But
Yeah.
Lemmy, to me, he was the father. He always made sense. He was this rock and roller doing all this bad stuff.
Yeah.
I tasted them all and I loved it. But he never made, and Metallica says this also in a documentary of Lemmy. He never came to the stage like totally wasted. He never said a word that didn't make any sense. He was standing there and just doing and perform. And when he wasn't at a Rainbow, he was probably or in the studio or performing. That was that man lived and breathed rock and roll music to me.
Yeah. And it's cool, guys like that too, that, and you can see it in all walks of life, but just that like work ethic that you're talking about, being passionate about something. And that's how guys like you and I are now about this type of thing. It's um passion is a really, really cool thing. And it's like I'm so happy I found this because I'm so passionate about it. I've always been someone that just cared about truth, but it was more of a, always like pushing my students and people in my family, like always be honest. If you mess up, own it, be honest. And, just coming into this where I feel like there are so many people in the world and especially those I love and care about that don't know the truth, I am just so passionate about trying to get them to see it. And that's the driving force behind all the videos I make. It's, I don't care about followers. I don't care about, numbers. I just want people to know the truth.
Mm. And I think you so how long are you posting now videos let's say the truth or about critical thinking about yourself? Because I saw a lot of videos that you do your workout, just like, whoa, man, this guy is a beast, right? And then all of a sudden, it's more like the narrative to, hey, guys, look at this. What do you think, right?
Yeah. Really, probably. So I would say I started my kind of awakening process in May of 23, and maybe a little of April, May, and it wasn't until in my mind I was 100% sure that we weren't living on a spinning globe and that it was stationary and level. It wasn't until I was sure of that that I started making posts, which was probably about June, because like I didn't want to put my neck out there and be wrong. I have
Yeah.
I'm a teacher. I didn't want to be putting out false information. I didn't want to be putting out things that people could debunk or disprove. And I have posted probably hundreds of things now, and a lot of them are opinion, but I think a lot of them, especially with flat Earth, are like pretty factual. And out of the hundreds of videos I post, like it's rare that I get someone that's like, "Well, look at it this way. See, you're wrong." And it's like you would think if thousands of people are seeing my things, I'd get a lot more of, "Well, you're wrong. Look at it this way." And that's not happening because
Mm.
I do my research and I try to only put things out there that I let you know it's my theory or like opinion,
Hmm.
or if I'm putting it out there as fact, like really try to make sure it's fact before I risk getting fired from my job for putting
Mm.
out false information to kids.
Yeah. What do you teach on school to your kids?
I teach all strength and conditioning classes, so I'm in the weight room teaching kids how to work out properly with good form and technique. So, that's when all the posts I was making before becoming a truther all had to do. I was passionate about my own fitness.
Hmm.
I was passionate about teaching kids fitness. I was competed in fitness, so for years and years, my posts were all fitness based. And then, I considered making just a separate page, but I was like, you know what, I want all these people who know and follow me for who I am now to see the truth. So I just started posting right on that same page and lost a lot of followers before I started getting a lot more followers.
Yeah, that's something I can relate to. I have several accounts,
Yeah,
and Disorganized Productions is one of them. And basically, I posted a lot of nature. When I walk in nature, I love to see the blossoms and mushrooms and all that stuff that comes out, just like clouds, sunrise, sunset, something like that.
yeah,
But I also have a coaching business, which is now going to take off right now. But then I was thinking about TikTok and Instagram. Okay, should I post what I normally say, just like some fun things that I post on Instagram or TikTok? It's not really related to the coaching program. I have to make something more professional, right? But
right.
on Disorganized Productions or Rob G Disorganized on TikTok, there are way more followers, like over 1,000 followers. Oh, oh yeah, I said Disorganized. Oh, my telephone goes off.
That's funny. What do you coach?
I coach people to get shit done.
Well,
That's
I like
basically
it.
what I do. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that could be in personal growth where they struggle in life, and that could be in business development. I've
Okay.
been
That's
more than 25 years. I've been on the road for several multinationals. I did sales manager. So I knew and I know a lot about all the processes in the company, how to start a business. I started two businesses, was involved with starting two businesses, better said. And in 2016, I had my first perforation and inflammation of my intestines. And in 2018, I had three times the same shit. So I had to get shit done.
yeah. I remember
And
you. I remember hearing about this now. Yeah.
yeah, So I started to write things down for myself.
Yeah.
I got this whiteboard here right behind me where basically this is the best investment that you can do as a person or as a business. You can write things down and make a photograph before I erase everything, and I can basically keep on writing and what comes in my mind. Even if we do now this podcast, you mention something like, oh yeah, I want to dig that, or I want to say something, I can write it down directly.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was writing some things down, especially about the things I heard on Joe Rogan, that what Santos Bonacci came up with, or David Goblins came something, or Jacko, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got a crazy situation here, and it's not good. Good. We know
Yeah.
that it's not good.
Yeah.
That's good.
I love that. I kind of stole that yesterday in my post. I don't know if you saw that one, but
Oh, not yet, not yet.
yeah.
But so I wrote it down, my own program, and I don't know if you know London Real.
Yep, I do.
From Brian Roche. Yeah, I participated in the business accelerator with him, with
Okay.
Brian Roche, and of course a lot of other people.
Yeah.
Wrote my own program, and well, when I was starting to get noticed, I had the challenge, because I don't like to look in problems, but I had the challenge to I was struggling with my health. I had to recover. I was getting into I was in a burnout when I started this course, so I had to be very careful about what I did. And Chamber of Commerce wasn't that really easy, because I knew that I was going to another project from the government and stuff like that. So I quitted that, and when I was finally a little bit free and I went and started for myself, I started with this coaching program. You can check it out on workinprogress.site. It's in 3 languages available. Well, little disclaimer here. But like I said, I had 2 channels. 2 of them that they had some followers, and one of them is now more professional into the coaching business.
Yeah.
And it's also tricky. Like you said, should I do that because it's related to gym, what I do now, and now all of a sudden, this crazy topic about flat earth and stuff like that, how people are going to react.
Yeah. I ended up going on and I just made a short post, and I was like, hey, if you're just following along because you're watching what you think is the train wreck, and you're watching for entertainment purposes versus having an open mind and trying to look into some of these things I'm saying, I was like, kindly please unfollow me. Like, I don't need to be your entertainment. If you're following because you're curious and want to learn things. And like, after I made that post, I had like half my followers drop off. So it was, I was like, well, it was what I thought was happening. So that was interesting.
Yeah, but I think the thing is that we are the guys that don't care about followers. It's cool when you follow us because we spread some words that you maybe relate to, or do you want to, that we have some authenticity, or that we have some topics that you want to know more about or want to talk about. But we're not doing it for the money. So if we have 1,000 or 10,000 followers, we don't make any, even the lights behind me, which are LED lights, that don't burn from that. We don't have sponsors and stuff like that. Right. So but the funny thing is, when you deep dive into that kind of topics, first of all, the people jump off the train, but at the next station, there are a lot of people coming in just like, holy crap.
Yeah.
And especially when you're not only making about flat earth, which is of course one of the topics of the conspiracy terror. I was thinking about the word, you got conspiracy therapist, you got conspiracy theorist, you got conspiracy terrorist. 3 different things.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, when somebody says, Rob, you're a conspiracy theorist, that's a conspiracy, isn't it? By only thinking it.
Yep.
But you do a lot of other stuff. I saw what you also did was with and it's really blew my mind about this Mountain Dew, this beverage.
Yeah.
And there were that you mentioned like 3 flavors or something. It is. Please explain.
Yeah, it all goes along with predictive programming. I'm sure a lot of people know that, the Simpsons do that. There was so much predictive programming with 9/11, from the movie Back to the Future to the Simpsons to even WWF. They had wrestlers talking about, Hulk Hogan saying, "I'm going to bring down the two towers, brother," and stuff like that. So, um, Mountain Dew is no different. I think they do some predictive programming right in their flavors of the drink. They have a flavor that came out a couple years ago called, I think, Maui Burst, or Maui Blast. So we all know what happened in Maui, and I think if you still think it's wildfires, then you should probably do some research. I don't think wildfires would burn metal in cars and leave blue um, blue roofs and everything blue untouched. So there was also a flavor called Baja. I'm confusing blast and burst, but there was a Baja one, and then there was terrible flooding in Baja, California,
Mm.
and then they came out with a Mountain Dew Pitch Black, and I think you and I have talked about it earlier, but I think there's been a lot of talk about shutting down the internet or having the electrical grid go down, and so that kind of was tying into the snow and thinking, man, what if they want to pull the plug at the worst hour, snow everybody in, at least in the Midwest and upper Northeast in the United States,
Mm.
and then make it and wait for a week. It's going to be -20. It's supposed to be literally a high of, and we're Celsius Fahrenheit, but I don't know what the conversion is, but it's a high of -1 here on Tuesday with wind chill, and that's Fahrenheit. Wind chill is like -30 or 40. So it's going to be
Whoa.
blistering, blistering cold. So, snow people in, wait till it's going to be freezing, and then shut down the power and have a blackout.
Mm.
And, it could be. I've heard people talk about it, and like I said, I don't like to scare people, but I've heard people on, like, government official type people talking about how if there was a worldwide blackout in the middle of the winter for a month, there's going to be a lot of people that aren't going to survive that. You run
Oh.
out of you run out of gas, you can't get to the store, you're snowed in, the grocery store runs out of food, you don't have fresh water because the pipes are frozen. Like, I don't want to spread fear, but I
Mm.
just they've done some pretty terrible things in the past, and they don't really care about human life. So it's I'm not a I don't want to, like I said,
Spread
make
fear and
people,
stuff like. Yeah. Yeah. I know what you mean.
but, like, it's never hurts to have some extra supplies.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, I made it was a Dutch post on TikTok about. I walked in a room, just my room, and I clicked on the light. I said, "Isn't it strange that we are so basically thinking about this alignment, just like that's so normal, clicking on the lights, that's normal. There's energy coming. But what if there's something like only, let's say it's not like a storm, but it's like a electronic blackout,
Yeah,
and it's middle of the summer. Let's say that, because that happens all the time, especially all around the world. You have this
right.
freezer, you have this refrigerator with your meat and with stuff like that, and you prepared. You have some soup and stuff like that. Putting into there, for oh, maybe one day I come home and then put it on the freezer or the refrigerator. But when there's no electric, everything, especially in when it's above 10 degrees, is going to be foul within 1 week.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
one of the things. But also, what you said makes really sense. With the water supply, if there's no electro, there is no way that you're going to get your heating or your air conditioning done, but also the pumps that provide you water will shut down.
Exactly.
And it's something not to, as you said, spread fear, but it's something to be aware of in what kind of luxury and what kind of, what's it called, independence that we live. We're
Yeah.
independent about so many things, about shelter and heat. It's very normal to go inside a home, click on the lights, tap on the tap water. It's normal.
Yep.
But it's not normal like 50 years ago. It's not normal like 100 years ago. You have to deal with some really bad elements to stay alive.
Yeah, and I don't think, I don't think a lot of people would be prepared for something like that. When I really wrapped my head around it, when the guy said something like, if the power grid was shut down all over the United States for like a year, he said something like, and I'm sure it's exaggerating for fear, but he's like 50% of the people wouldn't make it. And, I was like, what? That's nonsense. Like, but then when you really start thinking about how reliant we are on it to the point where, like, where are you going to get any food after the first month?
Yeah,
you know, Especially if you're in the city, in grocery stores or,
there will be
like
chaos.
the chain reaction of it, because it's like, okay, you can't pump gas because you need electric to pump your gas into your car. So you can't drive somewhere to get extra food. And it's like, there's just like a butterfly chain reaction effect that when you really think about it, it just makes you have this realization that you should have it in the back of your mind that that could
Yeah,
be something in your lifetime that could happen.
absolutely. I'm
Yeah.
absolutely 100% agree with you. And even if you have some crops outside, it's like, okay, I can rely on my own food supply. Okay,
Yeah.
for how long? And
Yeah.
it's not like a lot of people are thinking, oh, I'm going to make my own crops and stuff like that. But it's not like that when the shit comes down and hits the fan, that you are ready already, because it's going to take some time to get some fruits and to get some vegetables out of the ground. It's not like, oh, I'm going to plant them and without 2 or 3 weeks they pop out, especially now in the winter.
Right.
you,
Right.
you know that, and that's something. It's all something that that um, that I was aware of quite some time, and
Yeah.
that's why I don't eat like a normal person, like 3 times a day, because
Yeah.
I know that when I take coconut oil or olive oil, stuff like that, I, it burns fat and not sugar, so I can rely longer in it. It's like having a fire with oak and not with spruce.
Yeah.
Spruce is just like
Yep.
fiery fire, but within 5 or 10 minutes, it's gone.
Yeah.
With the
I'm right there with you. I've done like coconut oil fast, where all I've had for like 2 days is coconut oil, just to
mm,
like cleanse the system. Sorry, and I didn't mean to interrupt you there.
no, please go on, go on.
Um, and yeah, and like, so getting back to that kind of is, even if you have a mental plan for this stuff, like for me, I haven't really prepped anything, but luckily I live on a fresh source of water, and there's a lot of animals in my neighborhood: fox, squirrel, chipmunks, raccoons. Like, I've at least thought about where I could get some food and some fresh water, but I haven't done much. I've bought a few extra canned goods, but people in cities, like, make a mental plan. Like, what would I do if shit hit the fan? So you're not in chaos trying to have a calm brain to figure things out. Like, just think about it. What would you
Mm,
do? I think that's like at least something everyone should do. And like, I stress it over and over again. I'm not trying to fear monger, but I think it's a good thing to have in the back of your mind.
yeah. I always have a dugout bag with me, so my rucksack, which I always take with me. There are some things like this: emergency blankets. There's a knife.
Yeah.
There's a mask in it. Not that I'm going to use it, but you don't know.
Yeah.
Some matches, stuff like that. And I live in a very dense part of the world. I mean, it's like 300 by 285 kilometers, our country with 18 million people.
Oh, wow.
Probably where we're living here, exactly
Yeah.
in tri-state city, and I'm in the bloody middle of it.
Okay.
So when I cross border to Germany, like in 10 minutes, there's the Ruhrpott. And the Ruhrpott, there's a lot of steel and a lot of coal mines there were, like the brown coal. Krups. Krups is a very familiar metal company. There are 18 million people living in a square meter, like a square kilometer, just like 25, maybe 50.
Yeah. Wow.
And I'm in the middle of it. So there are
Wow.
like 50 million people and that's crazy already, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
when I will search some food and there are not the forests that we know like you have in America,
Right.
um, we will not be the only ones that gonna hunt for a squirrel or for something to eat.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the thing is, when you realize that, and when you're gonna take other perception of eating food, like I said with the oil,
Right.
um, probably I could live on a bag of real nuts like walnuts and hazelnut and stuff like that for quite some time. Or with
Yeah.
this canned fish, there's a lot of
Yeah.
omega-3 in it and a lot of
Yeah.
fat. I could live for a few days. But when you're familiar to having three meals a day,
Yeah.
you're gonna have a really bad time.
Yeah. For sure.
That's
And I'm right there with you. I fast a lot, and I eat one or two meals, and um, like I said, I've done the coconut oil fast. It's amazing how much that can tame your hunger. Just a spoonful of coconut oil. I when I first started fasting, it was tough. It'd be on my brain. I'd be hungry. I could fast 36 hours now and not even be hungry because my body's adapted to fasting. And it's just like you're saying, if you're used to eating 3 square meals a day with snacks in between, man, and then all of a sudden it's cut off or you're on a food shortage, you're gonna have some problems.
oh yeah.
mental mental and physical probably.
Yeah. And one of the things that I did when I do the fasting stuff, um, it's quite easy for me now. But
Yeah.
it's just something that you can wrap your head around if you're a listener and you've never been into fasting. Take your last meal like 6 o'clock in the evening, right? That's normal for us. Then continue without eating until you need this snack. Like normal people have, they're watching some television and stuff like that, and they wanna get a snack. Go to bed. Go directly to bed. What happens then is your metabolism is going to start up and stuff like that, and you will be in the fasting cycle for the times that you sleep. And when you wake up, it's allowed to have some tea, but for me, the most important thing to do in the morning is eat my salt, and not the
Yeah.
table salt, but like Celtic sea salt or some real high mineral salt, like 27 to 29 minerals minimum, because your body needs that. First of all, when you sleep, you will be sweating. That's normal. So the first thing you do is put the salt in your mouth, rinse it a little bit, and your brain is going to tell your body that your cells have to get open to get all these minerals. When you take a sip of water, then the water will really go to inside of your cells and the salt will be taken up. There are a lot of people that work out, they drink a lot of water, like 2 liters of water. They go to the toilet all day, and that means they are dehydrating because the water is not going to get into the body and stays into the body. What I did when I was going to work, I was trying to get it until 12 o'clock. So what's basically happening is 6 o'clock, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. That's a 17, do I spell it? 18-hour fast already.
Yeah.
What I did when I was getting hungry at midday, I would start to walk to get my clear mind and to get some fresh air. What happens then is that your lungs are going to be filled with fresh air, and your cells are going to be having fresh air and the good stuff. So then you can take it to 3 o'clock, and then you almost have 24 hours fast because you only need 3 hours.
Yep.
And it's amazing that sometimes, probably you can say that also to the listeners, when you do the first time fasting, it's quite hard. You feel tired, you feel hungry, but you got this this flip over point where all of a sudden you got this boost of energy.
Yep. 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 And I love it now to the point, and not only is it boost of energy, but I feel so it's like the smartest I feel. Like your cognition is just like on point, and it's so good that, usually I don't want to eat because I'm like, as soon as I eat, this is going to go away a little bit. I'm going to feel like a little bit more sluggish. I'm not going to feel as on point mentally, and a lot of it has to do with what you eat to break your fast. But yeah, I love it. Like it is, I feel the smartest and the most energetic towards the end of a fast. And that probably isn't the case at the beginning because you're not used to it. But once you're, it's like you're firing on all cylinders. And I'm gonna definitely, I before I go to bed, I'll drink some water with a little bit of salt, like you said. But I've never done that in the morning where put the salt in your mouth first because that kind of gets the brain firing up and the body ready. I like that. I'm going to steal that from you.
Mm.
Um, One other thing I wanted to add, just because it's a really good topic, but with fasting, um, your body will always, and this isn't as much for you, but for the people listening, but your body will always prioritize digestion. So if you have food in the system, your body's going to prioritize breaking down that food, digesting it, using it for energy. And when you fast, for men, it's around 16 hours, and for women, it's around 14 or 15 hours. When you fast and you fast for that long, your body goes into something called autophagy, which is basically it stops prioritizing digestion and it will start prioritizing killing off bad cells, repairing bad cells. So it's like one of the best things for fighting cancer and Alzheimer's is letting your body get to that point where it's fighting the bad stuff in your system instead of always just working on digesting food and processing alcohol and things like that. So it is, it is one of the life hacks I try to tell everybody. It's like the two things I really try to preach to people that are the easiest things in the world that can really improve your life are fasting and taping your mouth while you sleep. And people will probably think now everything I said just went out the window and they're going to think I'm crazy because I said that. But it is, I used to get sick all the time because I was a mouth breather, especially at night. And as soon as I stopped mouth breathing and started taping my mouth, my sinuses cleared up because your nose and your sinuses are like a muscle. The more you use them, the clearer they get. So if you're not into fasting or mouth taping while you sleep, highly recommend it from the Fittest Flat Earther.
Oh, good stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah.
I always or often say to people when I say goodbye, I say, and one thing, keep breathing, and then I walk away. And I hope that people will realize what I meant with that, because everybody would say, yeah, but I do that already. But then you notice, wait a minute, it's something that you can get a hold on, just like we talked before, like Wim Hof.
Mm-hmm.
If I would say to especially also you, when you do the Wim Hof breathing, I have like 1.5 or maybe 2 minutes that I don't breathe. What? You're gonna die? No, you're not gonna die. And I do the cold shower. You do that too?
Yeah. Oh yeah. And
Oh yeah. You do it
it
before or after workout?
I do it well, so I used to be really into it. I used to be really into the Wim Hof breathing and really into the cold showers and the cold lake. Like I've the guy that's like dug out a hole in my lake and got in like in the ice.
Beast
Real Wim
mode.
Hof style. Yeah. But it's funny, it ties into me to the truther stuff is I've always been the guy doing things ahead of the curve that people look at me like I'm crazy. Like I was into Wim Hof like 10 years ago and doing the breathing and getting in Lake Michigan when it's 20 degrees in January. And people were just like, you're insane. What is wrong with you? Fast forward 5 years, and all the people that were calling me insane are doing it. They're like, oh, this is great. I'm like, yeah, you thought I was crazy back then. And then the mouth tape. I've been mouth taping for years. And people were like, you're crazy, you're insane. And then all of a sudden, you look on Instagram and different things and they're advertising like hostage tape everywhere. And it's like normalized now. And I'm like, eventually, when I'm talking about flat earth, just like everything else in my life, 5 years from now, you're going to be like, oh, he wasn't crazy. And it's like,
Hmm.
people just, and like, I'm not an arrogant guy. I'm pretty modest, but like, sometimes I just want to be like, if you would just listen to me now instead of waiting 5 years, you'll be ahead of the game too.
Yeah, and it's not only about flat earth, just like you said. It's like some consciousness that opens up about who are we, what are we capable of, and how can we make the best version of ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And I use flat Earth as like that exact thing. It encompasses all to me because when I realized that, I realized the other stuff, like how powerful we are, how great God is, and how this place is created. And, you know, I use flat Earth as the catch all, but 100% what you said.
Mm, mm. And let me see what I all been written down. Oh yeah, uh, we haven't touched base on that one. NASA. You made some great videos also about the SpaceX, about it's a holograph that glitching.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things that I didn't saw before. I knew that there was more going on, but no one ever pointed out so, hide in plain sight. This is going on, people. And if you look at the videos that Tyler makes, Flat Earther, Fittest Flat Earther, on Instagram and on TikTok probably too.
Yep.
You see some videos and make up your own mind, but there's something going on that they not tell you, and probably it's like Project Bluebeam. They holograph something into something. And the funny thing is, when you pointed out one of the videos, I think it was about the SpaceX when it exploding.
Mm-hmm.
There are these people on the front row that just like basically were hanging out. Something is
Yeah.
exploding a
Yeah.
few miles away, and you're just like, oh yeah, I'm checking on my telephone and stuff like that.
Yeah. Probably exploding so close and big that you would feel the heat from it. And they're just like, oh, yeah, okay.
It's unbelievable.
It's so, yeah. I think, just talking about, I need to do another one. I haven't done a NASA or SpaceX video in a minute, but I love doing those. I think it's where I started to get like a little bit of a following because I feel like I was finding things that I hadn't seen either. But, you know, I think they send up real rockets. There are some that are real rockets. I don't think they go to space. I think they go up and go into the Bermuda Triangle or something. So I think there's real rockets that don't go to space. I think there are balloon rockets that are giant helium balloons made to look like a rocket. I think there are holograms that, they'll, I think they use the holograms, in my opinion, more for SpaceX when they're coming back. And if anyone's ever seen a SpaceX rocket that comes down and lands perfectly upright, I don't think that's actually happening. I think when they show that, it's a hologram or it's CGI, and you're only seeing it on the videos or on the computer. So
Mm.
I think that those are ways they're trying to fool people. And then I think a last way, or there's probably more that I haven't caught, but a last one is they'll film a real rocket going up and then they'll just reverse the footage so it makes it look like that SpaceX rocket that went up. Now they're just reversing the footage so it looks like it's landing, and they'll add the CGI smoke in. So they're doing a lot of different ways. And like you said, I think one of the reasons they're using holograms to do it is to test out, are these NASA hologram rockets fooling people? Are there
Mm.
millions of people saying, hey, that's a hologram? Or does this look real enough where we can use this exact technology for something like Project Bluebeam?
Oh,
And we're
good
not
one.
going to, yeah, and we're not going to have millions of people just being like, no, that's a hologram. It's going to fool people like the NASA rockets do.
I was thinking about. I was listening to an episode or several episodes of Crow 777.
Yeah.
He made some great content, and he's been looking through his telescope like 20 or 30 years. He did some great stuff, and he said, I'm 100% sure that rockets are not going to space.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, just like a minor thought, we always uh, wanted to say, let us come to Antarctica and show you that it's what's happening behind that. Is there land or stuff like that? But I was thinking about, there's something we can do right now, going to the Bermuda Triangle or Cape Canaveral, where the rockets would probably land,
Yeah.
and have an echo of that bottom of the sea. If there are piling up rockets, then there's the first proof. Hey, NASA, you're a lying bastard, and what you did with our money, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
cheaper than going to Antarctica, because I think it's like $30,000 for a ticket to go to the little tiny Schwabenland
Yeah.
or the
Yeah.
Deception
And they have
Island,
that
probably.
technology too. Yeah. There you go. They have that technology where you don't even need to go all the way down there. I think that's what happened with that submarine that was going down to explore the Titanic, is they weren't going all the way down. They were going down and doing some sort of imaging where you could get like a full exact kind of 3D image of what the Titanic was looking like, how its shape it was in. And I think that's part of the reason that they had that submarine implode, is to scare people away from going to do that, because they were going to find some truth about the Titanic and that it didn't hit an iceberg. And I think, yeah, let's go to Bermuda Triangle and go get those 3D images and, you know, say what the F.
It's something like, as I told you before, you can open up every goddamn door, but don't go through that door, because there's fear and stuff will go on. Okay,
Yeah,
what's behind that door? And I think
exactly.
it's quite easy with the community that we live in, seeking for the truth, especially looking for the stuff that NASA does. And I don't think that the Bermuda Triangle is lined up with all these marine ships. Probably now they're going through there.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, that's something. And that's the funny thing. I was talking to Snake, which also connected us, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
good guy, good dude.
yeah, I love that guy, man. Um,
Yeah,
we were talking about so many things, and the funny thing is that if you talk to the people in this community, just like you, I was talking to David Weiss the other week, and Mark Sargent, Dario. I had so many really intriguing, good guests, Raul and Alex, of course,
huh. Yeah, yeah,
Jessica, and they're all coming up. A lot of new great guests. The the fascinating thing is, you talk to people, to real souls that are aware of something, that want to dig deep into it because it's their interest and they want to know more about. It's not that hollow, uh, that small talk, you know.
yes.
You saw
That's the
about
word I
the,
was looking for earlier. Yeah,
yeah, just you
yeah.
saw about the new player from the Chicago, yeah. So have you seen Flat Earth? Have you seen all the
Yeah.
things that lined up and make up your own sense? Of course.
Have you seen that NASA has satanic numbers and everything, and so does your government? And it's like, this is the stuff that I don't get it. Like, I know I'm built a certain way and you're built a certain way, and not everyone's built like us, but I just don't, I can't understand not wanting to know truth. Like, my ultimate goal in my life is to have nothing but truth. I don't want
Mm,
any lies. I don't want to believe in anything that's not truth, or as close to truth as possible. And some people just don't care. Some people just like, let me keep the blinders on because I don't want to think too much, or I don't want to expose some evil. Like, let me just stay like this and I'm
mm,
okay like that. And I just don't get that. Like, that doesn't compute in the way I'm built, and probably
mm.
in the way you're built too.
No. And it's the same thing that they say, oh, what you going to do about it? Well, if I'm not the first one who makes the first step, nothing is going to happen. But guess what? I got a
Yeah.
podcast. I got a podcast with you now, Tyler. I have a podcast running like 2 months right now. People are speaking out about their opinion, about their perspective, about their belief system, or
Yeah.
think about this, and then you spread the word. And basically, everyone with an internet connection could get into the Disorganized productions and get some real conversations, and dig into that stuff, because maybe they know about it or want to know more about it, or they say, oh, that's interesting, instead of saying, oh, what you going to do about it? Well, spread the word, talk about
Yeah.
people. It's just like, well, I think there's no reference in the Bible that God said, make a church. The church is that you talk about God and spread the word of God with other people, spreading the word. That's it. Talking about it, what's your opinion on this, and what's your opinion about that? That's a dialogue that we should all have together, instead of, hey, it was raining cats and dogs today. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you want
I
another beer?
my, speaking of Bible verses, and I'm not perfect at quoting them, so I'll paraphrase, but one of my absolute favorites is Ephesians 5:11, which is, take no part in the fruitlessness of evil, rather expose it. And that's like, that's what I feel like I'm just trying to do, is just expose the evil. And touching on, what you said about people saying, what are you going to do about it? I was talking to my brother-in-law a little bit about some of this stuff, but not too deep. And he's like, I don't get it. Like, who cares? Well, like, why does it matter if the earth is flat? Why does it matter if we are being lied to? What are you going to do about it? And I'm like, I'm going to change the freaking world. That's what I'm going to do about it. And I didn't know at the time, but like, like I'm making posts that are getting 500,000 views. And it's like, I think I'm doing something about it.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can take your narrow-minded view, and that can be you. That's not how I am. I'm going to do something about it.
Yeah, that's the thing. And if it's going to relate to your own, um, to your own good consciousness, like, I'm doing things that have to be done. And if somebody likes it or relates to it, perfect. If they don't, perfect too. But I can't sit around and just, let me say, just basically drink, sniff, smoke, and jerk off all the time, and spend time on Earth, and just do nothing about it. When something is in my head, I want to be creative and put things out or talk to people. That's that energy, that passion, where you talked about this burning ambition,
Yeah.
that desire to, hey, come on, guys, wake the fuck up.
Yeah.
Can't you see what's happening? And the funny thing is, and that's what George Hobbs always tells, if you go to your coffee corner at work, at your colleagues, and you talk about 9/11, and everybody has their opinion about that, or about the facts, all that kinds of stuff. But when you bring a flat earth, oh, you must be a lunatic. You must be an idiot. Well, try to
Yeah.
get a dialogue. Why do you think I'm a lunatic? That's
That's the thing that I don't understand that either, because it's like, okay, you might not agree with me, but aren't you curious to know why I think this way? Because I'm curious to know why you think your way, instead of just, you're an idiot. It's maddening sometimes that people are just so close-minded like that.
yeah. And they don't know where to live in. They say to you, I disagree, but they don't know what their own model, whatever that will be, if it's going to be flat earth or 9/11, or what kind
Right.
of critical thinking that you put on. They don't know what they're defending. That's the worst part for me, that they don't know what they're defending. If somebody would come up with something to me and I wouldn't know anything about it, I would say, okay, that's fascinating, but I don't know anything about it. So let me dive into it first before
Yeah.
I'm going to make an opinion, which is very subjective. I want to be objective about the things that you say. So let me dig into some stuff, do some homework, and I come back to you later. That's a normal train of thought for me.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah.
And it's you mentioned going to people and having conversations, and people being open to things like the moon landing and 9/11. And I'm coming from a place where no one even no one knows 9/11 wasn't what it was. No one knows, very few people know that the vaccine was a pandemic. Very few people know that we didn't land on the moon. Like, I'm coming from a wealthy north of Chicago suburb where people are just, they came from a good area, so they think there's no way they were deceived. They have the best education. So it's like, I think I've been fighting. I mean, we all fight tough battles, but I feel like my battle with the people that I know in my like circle has been like no one's ever experienced. I feel like, because George will always say it feels like a lot of people are waking up. A lot of people woke up because of the vaccine. I'm like, I'm not seeing that at all. Nobody's waking up around me. Like, nobody. So it's been a tough road, but I've met a lot of awesome people, and I've always been someone that, like, I'm I was bullied as a kid, so I think I've always had a little bit of a guard and a shell, and I'm slow to let people in. And once you're in, like you're in, I trust you, and like you're my guys or girls, and but for whatever reason, I feel like in such a short amount of time, I've got those people in this community, people like Raul and Alex and Josh Monday, like, and even George, like people that I would like go to battle for already. And I've only known them a few months, but it's just like that bond of, I get where you're coming from. We share the same type of passion. Like you care about truth and good and God. And it's like, let's go to war together. It's been such a faster development of a good relationship. And I'm sure like after this, you and I are probably going to be the same way.
Hmm?
And, we've already chatted a little, but like every podcast I've gone on, then it's like, man, I formed that relationship, and it's just so cool. And I feel so much more open than I used to be to allow people in, because I know the people I'm allowing in just have like good hearts and have good intentions.
Hmm. Oh yeah, absolutely. And that's what I said before. It feels like the new friendships that I have right now, they're more connected to me in some kind of way than my really closest friends. And that really upsets me sometimes. But it feels also that, okay, there is something going on that that the creator showed me. There are people, if you speak out your thing, which is for the most people, oh my God, what the hell is he talking about? It resonates with some people that you really need, that you can really talk to. If it's going to be Raul, where I spend hours with, or Alex, or Snake, or just like you, or Adrian, or whatever, you have some really good conversations about really things that you can wrap your head around, right?
Yeah.
That makes sense to you in some kind of way. And that's also, with famous things comes also trolls. You
Oh
made
yeah.
a great video about that, about what was this globe clown?
Oh, I don't even want to say his name, and
No,
I don't
no,
want
that's,
anyone to be able to go look something Globy
yeah,
McLoser.
troll.
Globy
Just
McLoser.
call him troll. We don't give him any
Yeah,
platform at all. Troll.
exactly. Exactly. Well, that's something I didn't realize at first, because when I first started posting on Flat Earth, especially, man, I was getting just attacked left and right, just like bam, 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 bam. And um, then I started looking into it, and what I really realized is there is 1,000% artificial intelligence troll bots that are programmed to, as soon as you post something on Flat Earth, be the first 5 people on there, so that if any normal people go and look, they're like, oh, look at all these people calling this clown an idiot. I'm not going to even look at it. So it's like it exists like crazy. And most of the negative comments I get, I'll click on it and it'll be like, oh, this guy has 0 followers and has posted 33 times, or he follows 66 people. It's like I've almost gotten so good at it, as I'll go to click a username and I'll be like, I bet they have 66 posts, and I'll click and it'll be like, wow, yeah.
Yeah,
And the
there it
same thing
is.
with that, the Globy loser guy.
Hmm.
I called him out, or I shared with a buddy. I was like, you ever notice how he follows 666 people? And he's like, no, I never did. And then I called the guy out on it. And a day or two later, he had 668 he was following. And then he started, making posts, made 1 or 2 posts trying to, actually, no, he didn't even make a post about me, because I don't, like I said, I don't think I give people a lot of good ammo, because I'm pretty thorough in my research. But he
Hmm.
made some comments about my stuff, and I was like, "Oh, I see you changed your 666 people to 668." I was like, "I'm on to you." He wanted to debate me, and I'm like, "Dude, I'm too smart for you. Not on a level of like I'll beat you in a debate, but I'm too smart. Like I know what you're about. I know you
Yeah.
probably know the Earth is flat, and I know that you're a paid deceiver, and you know what I know. So I'm not going to debate you. Like if you were a genuine person who really thought that Earth was a globe and wanted to debate me, I would do that. But you're not that. You're a deceiver." And then we got in, we chatted a little, and he's like, you know what? He's like, just for you, I want to put my followers back at 666. So he's back at following 660. 6 people. I'm like, yeah, I know what you're about. You don't fool me.
Yeah. I was talking to David Wise and Mark Sargent also about that because of course these guys had a shitload of critics all over them, and I know that I was looking into flat Earth and stuff like that. That it just came across on YouTube. If you if you
Yeah,
type it in right now in YouTube, you see 10 times exactly as you say. These people are retards, and this is why.
yeah.
Debunking, 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 but they're not debunking. They're just talking small talk.
And
And
they're lying too. Like they're putting things out there that we don't even believe. Like the first
yeah,
20 things are just lies, and I'm proof it's a lie because I don't believe that.
yeah, and that's the thing, if you and I have a well, not a problem with that, but I think it's very fascinating that you could open up every door and just look at it, just like if you're looking into Netflix, what you want to have, comedy, that's that door. Horror, that's that door. Oh, that's not my door. Romantic films, war. You can go every path, but there's one door. Don't open it. Okay,
Yeah.
fine. Maybe some hidden eggs or stuff like that, or hidden content. Perfect. But now they say, oh yeah, we had this walking path with these 25 doors, but they're only 17. You can only go to that one because the other ones are closed. But I can make up my own mind. I'm 50 years old. It's not like I'm an idiot or spreading fear or a terrorist or stuff like that. And it's not like that. I can have a normal conversation with myself, and the things that I do is being good to other people, spread love. I mean,
Yep.
that's all I can do. And of course, I was a different person before I had this thing going on with my intestines. I was a bitter, angry young man that, when something popped up on Facebook, I just had my subjective opinion ready. Oh, fuck them, or go to war, blah, 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 stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it didn't
Yeah.
make any sense. And now I'm quite balanced. I love my life. I go outside. I do the breathing. I do my cold showers. Love to walk in nature. I should do more. Um, and
We
I
all should.
noticed, yeah, I noticed that there are four things. You got your emotional, you got your physics, you got your spiritual, and you got emotional, spiritual, and mental health. And
Yeah.
the thing that you need to do is to find a good balance. And I know where I screw up.
Hmm.
I know what I was working out much more like 2 years ago than I do now. I had more on my head. I do some things to get my money, to get the lights going on and stuff like that, to pay the rent. Um, and I know where to work on. And I got a course, of course, that is going to sponsor me and going to help me to get into that stuff.
Yeah.
But it's something that what I see is that a lot of people are physically doing the things, going to the gym, but the rest of that, emotional, mental, and spiritual, none, just none. Or you got
Yeah.
this piri weary, as I would say, completely spiritual, but the rest, none.
Yeah.
You got to find this balance, this fine tuning of life, so you can say, "Hey, wow, I'm grounded. I'm physically okay. You know, emotional. That there's not much that's gonna bring me down." And you guess what? Spiritual. I know that there's a good connection between me and that what there is. That
Right.
as you said, that to dive into or to connect to the database of knowledge. If you're on that point, you have a great process already.
Yeah. I'm guilty of what you're saying. I don't think as much now, but rewind a year ago, I was all about the mental and the physical, and I just didn't even know that there was the spiritual to tackle. So I was like, it was hidden from me my whole life, I think intentionally. I think that's why they create things like evolution and the globe and dinosaurs and the Big Bang. It's to hide the fact that we came from a creator and that, we're all connected to that source. And I didn't know that. So like if you don't know that, it's hard to work on it. And now that I know that, man, I work on it like crazy. And so like I've got the mental game, I got the physical game, and now I have that spiritual game. And it's added, like you said, like I was balanced before, but I was missing. I was balanced but missing something.
Mm.
And then I woke up to everything and lost my balance completely because it just flipped my world upside down. And now I'm getting back to that place where, other than some still frustration with my immediate family, my brothers and my mom, just them still not understanding where I'm coming from and me wanting them to, like, I'm feeling that balance again. But now I've added that spiritual element to it. So it's really cool. And it just like, I think it's just going to keep growing and getting better as time goes on, you know? So
Mm.
it's awesome. It just gives me a totally fresh, unique look at the world. And, you know, even to the point where like I used to be afraid of flying, definitely afraid of flying. And I'm not anymore because I know there's a creator of this place and we're here for a purpose. You know, we're not just some accident. And when I die, I'm not going to just be buried in the ground for eternity. I've got
Mm.
an eternal soul. So it's been quite the ride this past year for sure.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Are there any topics you want to touch base on? Because time is running fast when I don't have any time. I don't believe in
Yeah.
the time system.
Right.
Probably.
No, you know what? The one thing I do want to say, just because I did spend a good amount of time talking about the blackout and things like that, and I just want to emphasize not to fear. You know, I this is a cool thing I think in the Bible that it's mentioned 365 times in the Bible not to fear, and having a mental awareness and some mental preparation. Still don't fear. You know, God's got us. If you look to God and just have love in your heart and you're not fearing, then you're going to be all right no matter what. So I just
Oh,
wanted to kind of mention that. And just because I talked too much about fear, I wanted to end with that a little bit.
oh, that's cool. I got
Yeah.
10 questions for you, Tyler, which I always ask my podcast guests.
Awesome.
Um, Unfortunately, the last podcast I did with Jessica, I forgot about it, but
Oh,
I put them up again. So I got 10 questions for my guest. Are you ready for them?
oh, I'm ready.
All right. So the first one is what's your favorite color?
I'm a big fan of teal. My Jeep, I've got a teal Jeep Wrangler, and it just reminds me. I'm a big water guy. I love the water, so it reminds me of the water. My house is
Yeah,
painted.
yeah, I saw the wall. Yeah.
Yeah, you can see it right here. So teal and purple. I like purple a lot too.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
What's your favorite music?
I would say, you know, it used to be rock like AC/DC, Metallica. I'm more of a country guy now, which used to hate country, but now something like Luke Combs. I can enjoy some country.
Hmm.
Today's country. I'm not a big fan of the old country.
Okay.
Yeah,
Favorite film or series?
I am a big fan of both the books and the movies of the Lord of the Rings, which I always thought was fantasy. And
Hmm.
now I'm thinking it's more reality. I'm thinking there were giants here, there were dragons here. King Solomon
Fascinating.
had a magic ring that could summon demons. I think there's some Jared Tolkien was trying to tell us some things in those movies and books.
Hmm. Good one.
Yeah.
What's your favorite book? Well, you just answered that one.
Yeah. Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit.
Okay. What's your favorite drink?
Favorite drink. I drink a lot of coconut water. I'd go with coconut water.
Hmm. Good one.
Yeah.
Favorite food?
Pizza.
All right. What kind of clothing you wear? Is your most favorite to wear?
Oh man, I'm just I teach in PE clothes. I'm in gym clothes all the time. Just, you know, give me a t-shirt and some shorts and I'm
Ready
rocking
to
it.
go.
Yep.
All right. What's your favorite holiday destination?
Actually, it's my honeymoon and or my wife and I spent our honeymoon in Lahaina. That was, you know,
Wow.
that was literally our favorite place in the flat level plane. And so that that hit kind of hard. We've been there multiple times, and that was it, man. That was my favorite place.
Wow.
Yeah.
Huh. What's your favorite quote, Tyler?
Favorite quote. I'm gonna hmm, come back to that one. Give me a minute to think.
Okay. Okay. Well, here's another
I
tough
had a
one,
few
probably.
running through my mind. Oh, great,
Okay.
another tough one.
What's your life motto?
You know what? I think I don't have any eloquent way of putting it, but I think just be kind, be truthful, be respectful of everyone, and have love in your heart.
Oh, that's a good one. So about your last name, Hansen.
Yeah.
Is that German or Dutch? Because it's quite a familiar name here.
Yeah. Hansen, from where I stand and what I've been told from, my father and things like that, Hansen, Hansen, we've got a lot of Norwegian blood.
Hmm.
But I also know Hansen, Hanson, is very Danish.
Hmm.
So, um, yeah, I've been told Norwegian. I know that's supposedly where that name comes from.
Yeah, Scandinavian, I think.
Yeah,
When you mentioned
yep,
it, yeah, exactly.
yep,
Scandinavian makes really sense. Yeah.
yeah,
Hanson.
yep.
Handsome.
Son of Han.
Son of Han. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. We you could think about it for like two minutes probably, but if you don't have one, it's cool too. We
Well,
can.
no, you know what? I got one that I like. I can't think of the exact wording of it, but it's something to the effect of, um, do today what others won't, so tomorrow you can do what others can't.
Wow, wow, that's a
Yeah.
nice one too.
Thanks.
Yeah, I had a blast talking to you, Tyler.
Right back at you, my friend. And you know what? I did want to, one thing I forgot that I just wanted to thank you for is I listened to you talking to David Weiss, to that episode, and I just heard you guys mention me a few times. So I just appreciate the love, my friend.
Oh man, I think that's one of the greatest thing about the community that we're in. Oh, that's one of the greatest thing. Um, we take each other to the shoulder, and if there's some topic that you want to talk about, there's always somebody listening to your train of thought. There's always somebody who gives you some good advice about stuff like that. And I think we are here to support each other. And it's a real big community thing. It's like the community you have with friends and family in the first place normally. There's this another place that's very upcoming right now is the truthers or critical thinkers community, which you can have really support, but that comes also with supporting each other about the truth that they spill out and about the things that they do, the creative minds that make videos, podcasts, and stuff like that. You got to shout out because then the community is going to be denser and we'll have more people to dig into. And I know that David Weiss was also telling on a podcast about the dogs that he thought, oh man, this guy is bonanza. He's talking about dogs, but then he just also said, wow, there is a good point about that. And
Yeah.
it's
I got to hear that. I haven't heard that one. I'll have to look for that.
yeah, please do, please do. So tell the listeners where they can find you or contact you, Tyler.
Yeah.
And then I think it's a good time to wrap it up because otherwise I'm going to make a marathon, which I'm used to normally.
Yeah. Um, on Instagram, I am fittest_flat_earther. On TikTok, I am Fittest Flat Earther, just all one word, no spaces. And then I did just start a YouTube page, which is Fittest Flat Earther again. I don't have anything new on there yet. I've just kind of slid over some of my TikTok and Instagram videos over there, but I'm thinking of maybe doing some longer videos. So I will have that. And then you can, if you have an interest in emailing me, it's just Tyler Hansen 33. Ignore the 33. I've had that since I was like 12 years old.
Digged into that one.
Yeah, I just had that. I have 3 brothers. It was just ignore that. But Tyler Hansen, HANSEN 33 at yahoo.com. If anyone feels like shooting me an email, I'm happy to respond.
Yeah, and I will put them links in the show description.
Okay.
Thank you for having your time and your energy going on here on this podcast of Disorganized Productions, Tyler.
Thank you so much for having me. That was great. I just had a great way to start my day.
Great. And we definitely gonna have contact, and we're gonna message each other a little bit more. And probably I'm gonna ask you for another episode, because things are going to be very fast, just like the time is running out on this podcast. But you feel like some acceleration about all the things that be going on, especially now. Today, this morning, I heard from my girlfriend who came back from a graveyard shift that they found some T-Rex bones. So I said, okay, I'm ready for that story. I didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bring it on. Let's see.
So probably when you're going to pop up your Yahoo on the news, they found a T-Rex. Okay, show me the skull, baby.
Yeah, let's see that.
But
wait.
Yeah, great talking to you. A lot of love from me to you, to your family.
Right back at you.
Yeah, and for all your all your listeners, wherever you are in this beautiful plain planet, have a good morning, a good day, or a good night.
Peace, my friend.
For all my life, with the devil on my heels. He wasn't always right, and he can't fulfill my dreams. I've been running for all my life, with the devil on my heels. He wasn't always right, and couldn't fulfill my dreams. He's pain in the ass, black as night. God, show me the light and hold me tight. I've been running for all my life, with the devil on my heels. He wasn't always right, and doesn't fulfill my dreams. God, show me the light. Please hold me tight. I've been running for all my life, with the devil on my heels. He wasn't always right, and couldn't fulfill my dreams. I've been running for all my life, with the devil on my heels. He wasn't always right, and couldn't fulfill my dreams. He's a pain in the ass, black as night. God, show me the light. He's a pain